Welcome to this very special edition of the KJ Masterclass Live, the show which ensures that you profit from your time spent here with experts, either through their industry insights, information, or simply learning from them. And today we have Matthias Mueller. He is a Swiss colonel, psychologist, libertarian thinker, and we'll learn from him about surprising leadership traits of pirates to the power of self-responsibility and resilience. We'll discover unconventional strategies to lead with clarity, courage, and impact. Welcome to the show, Matthias.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much for having me.
You are welcome. Welcome to the show. Welcome to India in this online form, Matthias. And I'm sure not just in India, but a lot of people across the globe will benefit from what we are going to talk right now. We'll talk about bold leadership. We'll talk about the essence of leadership. We'll learn all this from you. But before that, let's learn a bit about your journey, your background, so that people know who they are listening to.
Yes. So thank you for having me. You said it already at the beginning. You said that I'm a colonel. That's true. Since 25 years, I'm serving in the Swiss Armed Forces as a colonel in the infantry. I'm working right now. I'm working in the staff, personal staff of the Chief of the Armed Forces. I studied psychology and communication, but a long time ago, like 30 years ago in the last century. And so, but as I said, since 25 years, I'm in the military. I'm working a lot about, it's all about leadership, what I do. I was myself a battalion commander. I was myself, I was the leader, the commander of the officer candidate course, like the future infantry officers. And also during my studies, my main work, my main focus was always on leadership, how to make people do things, how to motivate people.
Absolutely, Matthias. So a colonel, and you want to people to learn about leadership from pirates, from a person who is so structured. He wants to learn from people who are very much unstructured. Help us understand why this whole swing,
Yeah. It sounds almost paradoxical, but it isn't, because there's one thing we have to know. We see pirates in a completely wrong light nowadays. When we hear pirates, we think about this brutal people, criminals who destroy, who pillage, who whatever. But if you look at a history, and now the historians are getting more and more information about that, the pirates were actually people. They were not as violent as we think. They were people who escaped society, a very restrict society. We're talking about the pirates in the 17th and 18th century, the golden age of piracy. And you have to imagine, you live in a society where you have nothing to say. You have a feudal system. There are a few aristocrats. They have to say, and you have nothing. You have no rights, nothing. So these people who became pirates, they were often guys who escaped, who said, I don't want to live like this. I want to be free. I want to have another system. So they escaped on sea, and they created a completely different society. Did you know, as an example, did you know that pirates, when they were when they were on a ship, that they had a very democratic, participative leadership style? Everybody was allowed to have a say. I mean, this is incredible. If you think about 17th century, and you have a society where everybody has a say. There were even women on board. Women had the same rights like men. This is absolutely incredible. We talk about women's rights nowadays. They had it 300 years ago. They had codex. Nowadays, every company says, "Oh, we need a codex of behavior, whatever, an ethical codex." Pirates had that in the 17th. They invented basically the health insurance. I mean, this is also amazing. They had health insurance 300 years before everybody else in the world. So we can learn a lot from pirates, and they were not as brutal and criminal as we think. There were more people. They were mostly people who said, "We don't take it anymore. We try something new." So They were like innovators. See?
Absolutely. We will try and see it from that way. So let's look at the present state of leadership. Let's look at how the leadership is. Many people put it, the need for heart-centered leadership, conscious leadership, servant leadership, and, and present leadership, which has led to toxic workplaces, great resignation, quiet quitting. So what can they learn from pirates of the past?
Yes.
Do they have to, what are some of the things? Let's understand what can present leaders understand from
Yes.
pirates.
So one thing they did, they had a very participative, transformational leadership style. You have to imagine the captain was elected by the crew. So there was not just a CEO who came, I'm the boss and you do what I say. It was the people, the crew, who elected their boss. And if the boss didn't behave accordingly, if he was mean to his people, if he didn't take care of his crew, they could at any moment replace him with somebody else and putting back in the ranks. So they were very democratic. And that's already something. We have, I don't know if you know about the study that comes out every year from Gallup, who checks the engagement levels. And engagement levels are awful. If you look around the world, there's only about 23% of people who are fully engaged at work. There's about 62, I think, percent that are not engaged, and there are about 15, 16% that are disengaged. Now, why is there no engagement? Or how can you make that people are engaged? When you let your teammates, your employees participate. And that's exactly what they did. When they did decision making, they talked with the people, with their crew. Of course, when there was action and when the fight went on, of course, there was no participative leadership. But before, they talked together, they took decisions together. So they were engaged. Everybody was participating. And that's what we can learn. That's one point we can learn from the pirates. Another point, diversity. We talk a lot about diversity, the strengths of diversity today. But pirates, they actually lived diversity. They lived it on their boats. They had people from all over the world. They had women, they had men, they had from Africa, from India, from Europe, everywhere. They had a completely diverse crew. But they didn't do that because they thought, oh, we want to be very diverse. They did it because they said, we want the best. We want the best navigator. We want the best cook. We want the best whatever. And they didn't care about skin color or gender. They took the ones who fit the job. And that's also something we could learn about, I think. Like there's a lot it's actually really a lot that we can learn. And maybe one thing I would like to mention too, we always think that pirates were extremely violent. Actually, they were not. They tried. You have to imagine, you have a boat, you go out with your pirate ship, and the last thing you want is that your ship gets destroyed. So you have to try to get your treasure without destroying your boat. So you don't want to have a fight. So how can you do that? That you can achieve your goal without having a fight, by having a certain reputation, by having a certain image. So and they had excellent marketing. So I mean, if you think about it, the branding they had, the pirate flag is the best branding ever. So you're on a merchant ship, you see the pirates arriving, they have their logo, and you're like, oh my God, I'm not even want to go to fight because I heard they're really, really mean. So you don't even fight. So what they did is they had an excellent branding, best branding ever. I mean, you ask anybody in the world, from a little kid to an old person, everybody knows the pirate flag. Perfect branding. And second, they were excellent storytellers. And that's also something we can learn. Telling stories. They were making their reputation by storytelling. They were telling people, like, they're making rumors about themselves. They were telling stories about how vicious they are, how mean they are, but they actually weren't. It was storytelling, reputation management, branding. I think that's also something we can learn. If you look at a modern company, you need a story. Your company needs a story. Your company needs a good branding. Your company needs an image, a reputation. And they were excellent at that.
Absolutely. They were excellent without knowing it in the
Yeah.
modern sense.
Yes.
Absolutely. Absolutely, Matthias. So let me understand it this way. When did you get inspired by these pirate stories? And how was your life without these stories? How did you look at leadership without the pirates? And how do you look at leadership with the pirates and their stories?
Yeah. Yeah. So I think, to be honest, I think every boy is kind of like fascinated by pirates. Like if you look at little kids, everybody is fascinated by pirates. And you know what's actually really funny? Women also like pirates. It's actually one of the most how should I say? Women like this, are fascinated because they're strong, independent characters. They like that. A little bit rebellious. And I always liked people who are maybe a little bit thinking outside the box. People who are a little, in a certain way, rebellious, who question the status quo. And in anywhere, like be it in the military or be it in the economy. I mean, look at an Elon Musk. Elon Musk is in this sense also a pirate. He searches new frontiers. He questions the status quo. So I like such people. I always did. And then the funny thing is, my uncle, he rests in peace. He died a couple of years ago. He was a historian. And he told me once that one of our forefathers was actually a pirate. Now, don't ask me if it's really true. I kind of like the story. So I always say, oh, one of my grandfathers was actually a pirate. So no, that was kind of like what it was fascinating. And the second part of your question is, what did it change? I mean, first, when I started studying the pirates, it changed my my view on them, but also it started showing me, try as a leader, also in the military. Don't follow blindly the rules. Start questioning rules. And if you can question and you get the good answer, you know why you follow the rules. But if they cannot explain, nobody can explain you why there is this rule, why follow it? Like, I think we have to be more. Pirates were very critical thinkers. They questioned the society, how it was back then. And I think that's what we should motivate people to do in our enterprises, in our as an entrepreneur. We should motivate our employees to question, to be critical, because that's how we move further. That's how we can push the boundaries and not always thinking we're like limited by this. There's more. And pirates, they try to get that more. And they were the forerunners of the Enlightenment. I mean, they had democracy before the American Revolution. They had democracy before the French Revolution. So I think they were pioneers, and I think we need pioneers in every enterprise we do, be it in the military, be it in culture, be it in economy. We need such pioneers who dare being a little bit rebellious without being criminal, of course, but pushing the boundaries to get to new frontiers.
Right. So I want to understand for the audience, Matthias, is that where did these pirates get trained? One was the natural training, because they were, they felt oppressed somewhere, so they went and joined. But the rest of the part is that, what do you mean that their organizational culture gave them that training, whichever organization in that sense, or ship or boat they joined? How did it, transfer from one person to another so quickly? Because there was danger for them all the time, and leadership also could keep on changing, dying out, but still that culture was what was that was keeping them together. So what is it that kept them together? What was the vision? How did it transfer from one person to another, to the whole group? And secondly, why have management in institutes, they have not adopted or adapted to these things so that leaders can learn from pirates?
Yeah. I think first, the vision they had was to live free, without oppression. I think that was their vision. There was even, we don't know nowadays if there was that place called Libertalia. We don't know if it was, if it's just a myth, but we know they had the goal to create a republic of pirates where they can live free in a democratic system where everybody has the same rights. That was the vision. Now, how did they learn from each other? I think it's like always when you're in action, when you're in a war or something, you learn. It's very hard, but it's learning by doing. It's trial and error. And I think they learned quickly. You said it. It was very dangerous. You made a mistake, you could be dead. Your ship could be sunk. So they learned very quickly what is successful and what not, because they tried out stuff. They were very adaptable. They had a lot of imagination. They were very creative, and they tried out stuff. I give you an example. We see pirates often with the eye patch, and people don't really question why they all had an eye patch, and everybody thinks, yeah, they probably lost an eye, but that was not the case. The eye patch was there because when they went on an enemy boat, they had to go under, like in the basements. And back then in the 17th century, you didn't have light. So what they did is they prepared one eye for the dark. When you're in the dark, your eyes get adapted to it. So they had one eye adapted to the dark, the other one for the daylight. So you see, they were very creative. So I think they learned, really, it's trial and error. That's something we should do too. I think in our society, we think too much. We think, but we don't do. Sometimes you just have to try it. You have to try. You do your podcast. You try it. Maybe it's a success. Maybe not. Maybe the first. I'm sure you have so many. You made so many podcasts. Maybe the first times you made some mistakes, and now you learn from it. And you get better, and you get excellent with the time. So I think that's how they learned. And why didn't we learn more from them? It's a very interesting question, actually, you ask. Why didn't we learn so much? Because the reason is that the picture that was painted of the pirates was always bad. And that was painted by the government. Because the government didn't want people to become pirates. They didn't, because they were afraid of losing power. That back then, the government didn't want a democratic society. So they painted a very bad picture. They said they're the worst, they're evil, they're everything. So that was this myth that was holding long. And it's just recently, I would say in the last 20, 30 years, that historians came out painting a little bit a different picture. Like one very famous anthropologist is David Graeber, who wrote a very nice little book about the pirates in Madagascar. The author died recently, but there are more and more such sources, historical sources, that come out and say, hey, no, that was not true. They were pioneers, and we can learn from them, and we should not be guided by these stereotypes that were obviously wrong.
Absolutely. You are a psychologist,
Yes,
Matthias, and you should. So, is it that the modern system of leadership, it is more based on just earning money out of everything, either from business schools, either from leadership courses, leadership teaching, and that when you just look at it, leadership as a business, creation of leader as a business, rather than creation of genuine and authentic leaders, that is when you don't get the right kind of leaders. What are your thoughts on this?
You have it absolutely right. You're absolutely right. We think too much about making money, but we have to think about what is the purpose of our business, of our enterprise. And we have to, I even say, if I have soldiers, I have to really like my soldiers. I almost have to love my soldiers. They're mine. We go together. We're a team. And if I focus first on my people, of course, I always have to focus on the mission. But if you focus on your people and you can get them to want to achieve the goal with you, then you will have success. And then the money comes. But we always think first money. We don't have to think first money. We have to think about our people, about the way to get to the goal with our people, and we cannot get there alone. I can never, I can be a commander, but I'm nothing without my soldiers. I'm nothing. It's like I can never achieve anything alone. I need my people, and that's why I have to respect my people. I have to like my people. I have to be there for my people. I have to value my people, and I have to give them purpose. And then we do it together, and then the success comes, and then maybe the money comes. But we should not focus on the money first.
Absolutely. Matthias, in the present world, everything requires different sets of leadership. When you are in military, it's much more structured. In business, it is very, very different. Structured, but very much unstructured also. Anything can happen any point in time. Economy can get impacted by anything in any part of the world, or even from outside. Anything can happen. In that sense, what are some of the things that is the core of leadership, the essence of leadership, which does not change wherever we go, either military, either pirates, either in business, or even on the street? What are some of these things that is not that is not compromised, that is not non-negotiable in any way?
Yeah. So, if you think about it, what does a leader actually has to do? It's a very, when I give presentations or keynotes and I ask the audience, what does a leader do? And then people say lead. And I was like, well, what does that mean, lead? If I ask you, what does a janitor do? You know exactly what he does. He's cleaning the floors, he's cleaning the windows, he's locking the doors, whatever. But if I ask people, what does a leader do? People say like, well, he leads. What? How? What is it? What is it? So what is expected from a leader? And I think there's three things. Like a leader should do lots of stuff, but there's three things, according to me, that he absolutely or she has to do. It doesn't matter if you're leading a company. It doesn't matter if you're like having an enterprise, if you're having a small business, if you're conducting an orchestra. There's three things. First, it's expected from you to take decisions. You are taking the decisions. You can ask your people for help and everything, but at the end, there's one person who says, we go left, we go right. You have to take the decision. That's the first thing. The second thing is, if you take the decision to go left, let's say I say, let's go left with my team. I'm on a march, and we're like in the military, we are on a march, and I have to decide to go left or right. I decide to go left. I made the decision. But the second thing is, I can now walk left, but maybe my people are like, we rather would go right. And they're not following me. So the second thing is that I have to do is I have to convince my people, I have to motivate my people to follow me, to go with me that way, because alone I can do nothing. So decision-making, motivation. I have to motivate my people to follow me, to work with me, to go that way. And the third thing is, and I don't know if you ever heard about that, you know how many, there's actually a very good study that came out early 21st century about how good decisions are that we make as humans. And there was like, the study was done in big companies in the US, Fortune 500 companies. And what do you think? How many decisions were good in a year and how many were bad? What do you think? 50%.
If I understand, you need a lot of not so good decisions
exactly.
to coming to the position of taking good decisions. There are many failures in the background.
Exactly. So 50% of the decisions might be wrong. So now I said, we go left. I motivated my people to go with me left. And now suddenly I realize, oh no, this was the wrong way. I'm walking the wrong way. Now, a lot of leaders, they start blaming circumstances. A lot of leaders, they blame bad luck, whatever. But you know what you have to do is you have to stand there and say, guys, I took the wrong decision. Stop, we turn around. Maybe people are a little bit disappointed, but they're much less disappointed than when you would say, well, let's just walk on. Let's walk on. Maybe it's still good. So that's the third thing, taking responsibility. So decision-making, motivation, giving reason, purpose, and the third is taking responsibility. You as a boss, as a leader, you're always responsible for anything that happens with your company, with your people, with your organization.
Absolutely, absolutely. There's much to learn about all these things from you, Matthias, and I'm sure a lot of people can learn all these things from you, also from your Stoic Pirate. Tell us a bit about this.
Yes. So I have a podcast too, as like you, not and it's called the Stoic Pirate. It's actually in German. It's like I do it in German. I would like sometimes I think I should do it also in English. So in German it's called Der Stoische Pirat. So and the title means as I say, Stoic Pirate. One thing, pirate is like, hey, be critical, think about what we do, try to find new ways, maybe be a little bit rebellious in a good way. And the Stoic is because I like the philosophy of Stoicism. And I think Stoicism is a very powerful philosophy that can help us as a leader, but also as an individual in any circumstances of life. So that's a little bit the essence of my podcast: leadership, Stoicism, and yes, and psychology.
Wonderful. As I said, there's so much to learn from you, and I'm sure a lot of people would want to connect with you, learn more from you, about your podcast, and so many other things that you are doing.
I hope so. I'm open.
Right. So what's the best way for them to connect with you?
They can connect with me. They can go on my website. It's called www.muellermatthias.ch. Mueller with a U and an E, double L, and Matthias, T and H. .ch. It's because it's in Switzerland, CH. And if not, just Google my name. Like you can read it, Matthias Müller, Switzerland. Probably you're gonna find me. And but I would like to connect you. That people will connect with me. They can also go on Instagram. There's the Stoic Pirate. You can go on YouTube. You should find it too, the Stoic Pirate or the Stoische Pirat. There's in English. Or give in the Stoic Pirate on Google, and you might come. I think you come on my website actually, and then there you can connect. You can write me if ever you want.
Wonderful. With this, it's a wrap on this very special edition of the KJ Masterclass Live. Thank you so much indeed for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It was great.